you all. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lauren. You're so sweet. Say a prayer for Lauren. She's going to North Carolina tomorrow morning early on a flight at 6 a.m. so she can be at a wedding of a family member of her new boyfriend. She's a little nervous. I'm like, Lauren, you ooze charm. Come on. You got this. You got this. No worries about it. All right? It's going to be all good. I remember another moment I had with Lauren where she was discerning what she was going to do after college. And I said, Lauren, you're a woman, you're incredibly smart, you're Latino, you can do whatever the hell you want. And she smiled and she said, I know. She's amazing. Thank all of you for being here tonight. So blessed, and I hope in my talk tonight you'll understand why I feel so blessed, because of what we have here. And we have it because of God and His grace, and because of you and your generosity and your love. I know that I speak for our entire staff when I say that, and I don't ever really tell them this way enough, but I get to work with the best people who have such conviction in their heart about the gospel, about our mission, and about what we're doing. They give their work everything, every day. They give it their all. I ask all of our staff, including our focus staff, to please stand right now and be acknowledged. All of you, please. Bishop Conley sends his regrets. He got delayed on his flight. He intended to be here fully tonight. He's been in Washington this week or Baltimore for the CCB meetings. And he apologizes, and so, but he's been very supportive, obviously, and continues to be of our ministry. And when I see him, I will tell him, Congressman Fortenberry made it. He came back from DC. He didn't go home when the plane got in. He came straight here. I'll give him about time. It's all good. We live in interesting times, to say the least. Changing times. Our church continues to face challenges in incredible ways. But for me, I feel like it's a great time to be into the church and to be able to fight for the church's mission. Really, I believe that. There's been so many, even in the midst of trials and challenges that have taken place in the life of the church, not only in America, but in the world. We had this incredible blessing this fall with the canonization of John Henry Newman. In fact, I was in Rome earlier this semester for the ordination of Joe Wallmeyer, and we were lamenting. I was with some priests for dinner. We were lamenting some things happening, and we said, but we have John Henry Newman, and they can't take him away from us. Right? He's amazing. And one of the things for me in this fall that's been interesting is I feel like I've been friends with Newman for a long time, but my friendship has deepened with him. I've grown to understand him in a deeper way. And when I was thinking about the theme for this year, I thought of Newman, I thought of how we've known him. We've known him to be a great scholar, an incredible philosopher, a great theologian, a man of letters, a great poet. We know all these things about Newman. But now, if we didn't know it already, we understand him to be a man of great love. And we know that because of these miracles that have taken place and have manifested themselves that allowed his canonization to take place. First, the miracle in 2011 of Deacon Jack in Boston, who was healed miraculously of a back injury. And then recently, a year or two ago, of a woman in Chicago named Maria Villalobos, who almost bled to death in her shower in a bedroom because of her pregnancy. And she called out in a moment where she didn't know what to do. Her husband wasn't around. She called out to Cardinal Newman, "You have to help me. You have to help me." And immediately when she cried out to him, the flow of blood stopped, miraculously. I mean, she really, by all means, should have bled to death, but she didn't. And we know this because of the intercession of Cardinal Newman. So, it's interesting because, you know, this line from Willa Cather, so I decided to pick, you know, Willa Cather, one of our treasures of Nebraska. She has this great line, and it's from chapter 5 of Death Comes to the Archbishop. Where there is great love, there are always miracles, and I believe that. I certainly know that Father Mills would say this, Father Holden was there before me. One of our favorite things about the Newman Center is like seeing grace work. Like you can visibly see grace working in these students' lives. And you know it's of God, and you know it's from something beyond you. You know it's of Him, and it's really miraculous, right? And I want to talk about some of those things tonight where we witnessed that power of God's grace working in such a way and transforming the lives of students in our ministry here. Before I do that, I want to just help you understand how beautiful that is by looking at the bigger picture. And so a few years ago, I had a friend of mine, Father Eric Nielsen, who's the director of the St. Paul Catholic Center at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, give me a call, and he said, you know, there's this organization called CCMA, and I said, yeah, I know what CCMA is. It's the Catholic Campus Ministry Association of America. I said, I've really never had anything to do with it. I'm really not that interested in it. He said, Bob, you gotta listen to me for a minute. He said, they've gone belly up. This is an opportunity. I know why you didn't want to have anything to do with it, because it was a bad organization. I mean, the first time I met this sister who worked for CCMA, she said to me, you're probably one of those priests who wants to put kids in front of the golden box. And I said, yes, I am, sister. I want nothing to do with this organization. But thanks be to God, they went belly up. And so he said, you know what, we've got Focus, we've got Swan Campus Ministries, but we got to do something to help all these other places that have nothing. And we have to give back, and we have to do that, Bob. And so I said, okay, I'm in. So he's like, I need $10,000 from you, I need this, So I was like, okay. So and then I joined, they asked me to join their board, and I have. So I was just at a board meeting for CCMA out in New Jersey a couple weeks ago, and there are about 12 of us on that board from all over the country, from Minnesota, Florida, California, all over the place. And while we were there, we were reflecting on the challenge of Catholic campus ministry. For years, Focus has used this as a statistic where we say that 80% of Catholic college students quit practicing the faith during their time in college, 80%. Actually, we have some updated research now where we know that it's worse than that. We know that Gordy Damaris, who's a friend of mine who runs a group called St. Paul Outreach, it's a great campus ministry program on about 40 campuses. He did a bunch of research on this. He says, we know now 9.75% of college students go to Mass on Sunday. That's less than 10% going to Sunday Mass. It's crazy. We also know that there are 3,200 four-year colleges and universities in the United States. That number is going to change, by the way. We've seen 10 colleges close in the last year, and that's just the beginning. Things are going to change in higher ed in a dramatic way in the next few years here in the United States. But of those 3,200 schools, there's a Catholic campus ministry presence at 800 of those schools, and that means 25%. Or, looking at it from a more negative light, 75% of our colleges have no Catholic campus ministry presence at them at all. Nada, nothing. That's alarming. Because you've heard these young people talk about the transformative, what happens in college, how you make all these decisions about what your life's going to be like. It's not good. We know that the largest growing religious denomination at this time in the United States, Bishop Robert Barron calls them the nuns, not nuns wearing a veil, the N-O-N-E-S. It's the largest growing denomination of religion in the United States. Those who say they have no religious affiliation whatsoever. Also within the culture, there are things we are learning about our young people that are disturbing. My friend who's on the board with me, Dr. Pat Wiley, she's the Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs at the University of Miami. And the dean of undergraduate students asked her to gather a group of undergraduate students, freshmen, so that she could interact with them, or he could interact with them and learn about the way they're thinking. And she said, he was so alarmed. She said, I went to dinner with him, and this is all I could talk about for 2 hours, is that they said this: we're visual learners. We're visual learners. You know what that really means? It's code for, we don't read. We don't read. In fact, they admitted, we don't even buy textbooks unless we feel like we absolutely have to have them. We don't want to waste our money on them. Crazy. The other thing that's disturbing, a few days before John Henry Newman was canonized, John Garvey, who's the president of Catholic University of America, wrote a piece that was in the Wall Street Journal. And in that article, he proposed that Cardinal Newman, should become the designated patron saint of those who are lonely. And the reason why is because of, when Newman converted, he lost all of his Anglican friends. And then there were a lot of people who were Catholics who didn't trust him because they thought he was rather progressive. But he made all these new friends in Birmingham, around the oratory. There were thousands of people who lined the streets when he died. He had all these friends. And the reason that Garvey says this is because he quotes this study done by a company called Cigna, which is a healthcare company. And they did a study of 20,000 people in the United States for Gallup. We used to consider a large sample like 1,000 people. 20,000, that's a lot. And what they found in this study, that the age group of 18 to 22 identified as the loneliest age group in that study. 18 to 22, and when I read that, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. When I was 18 to 22, I was having so much fun, more fun than I should have been having. I had great friends. I never felt lonely. This is so foreign to me to think of this concept. Interestingly enough, the age group 72 and older were the least lonely of the age groups in that study. And so things are changing. And there's a number of reasons why that age group of 18 to 22, there's a number of reasons why they identify as lonely. So, but interestingly, thanks be to God, that's not our story here. We have so many graces and great things happening here at the Newman Center at the University of Nebraska. And these are graces that are coming, not to my credit, this is God's work, right? But I feel privileged to get to watch it happen and to not get in the way of what He wants to accomplish. But this is also a result of your goodness and your generosity, right? Because it wouldn't happen without that either. When I work with people in campus ministry at our meetings and at our things, I often give talks about raising money because they know that we had to do that, even though I have a really large debt. But I always tell them, I'm like, you have to check your gut and about what kind of conviction you have about these students, and you're serving them and what you want to do for them. Like, you have to have the courage to go out and ask people to help you. You can't just sit around and say, we don't have resources. Like, get over that. If you believe in the gospel and they're serving this segment of the population, then go out and get the help you need. It is a real gut check thing. I think I've told this, I know I've told this story before, maybe not at this dinner. The first time I went in and asked, I was going to ask some friends of mine who are here tonight for $10,000. I thought I was going to have to stop over the side of the road and puke because I was like, I can't do this, I can't do this. We wouldn't be here tonight like this if we didn't take those kinds of steps, right? So anyway, the beginning of our year, Molly, you want to put this picture up? This is how a beginning year at UNL starts. This is our first Sunday morning Mass of the school year. Now, at that Mass, I got up and I read the Gospel, and I think it was a Holy Spirit moment, because there's a young woman here, Jazz, she's right here. Jazz is in the side aisle taking pictures, and I finished reading the Gospel, I said, hey Jazz, and she turned around and she's like, what? I said, I need you to do me a favor. And she's like, okay. I said, I want you to come up here all the way in the sanctuary turn on the top step and turn around. I want you to take a picture of all these beautiful people, because I want people to be able to see what I see from the sanctuary. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? So that's the way our year starts in August, and then we dig in. And we do our best to try to engage those students and help them go deeper in their life with Christ. This past weekend, I prayed about a week ago to God and saying, tell me what you need me to say. And He's really good. He always gives me answers to that prayer when I ask Him for it, which is amazing. And so right before I prayed that, then I went on our Koinonia retreat last week in Nebraska City. And I think we've got a picture of the students who went there, about 80 students on that retreat last weekend coming up. Oh, this is a great picture. I love that, Molly. Can you go back to it? We make them give up their phones for the weekend. They've got to turn them in. They've got to turn them in. We text your parents and tell them you're not going to be accessible by your phone for 48 hours. It's over. Turn them in. And then it actually works great. And then this is the group. We were out in front of the church at St. Mary's on Saturday morning and took this picture. But I want to just read you a couple of notes. So it's kind of like a tech for college students. And so the students write letters and they write notes. And I get letters and notes too. And the letters and notes I get are for students who have made the retreat before, but they're back and they're working the retreat as the main team, or what we call the week crew. They're cooking food and doing all these things. And so I'm not going to share the names with you because some of the names are here tonight, but this is some of the things they say. There's no way, Father, I'd be a practicing Catholic, let alone an attendee at daily Mass, a member of the Newman Center board, or a Bible study leader, if it were not for our Newman Center and this Koinonia retreat. I'll go away for a weekend with kids if I get that kind of note. Here's another one. The Newman Center has truly given me a home and a joy that I was missing in my life up until now. Here's another one. The Newman Center has truly become a home for me and has directly influenced my life in so many ways. I am not even close to the same person I was over a year ago when I first came to Sunday Mass. This community has changed my life in so many ways. I'm so glad that I've been able to be a part of such a beautiful home. Here's another quick note from one of our Rwandan students. Thank you, Father, for allowing us to experience a home here when we are so far away from our own home. Here's the last one. I love this one. A year ago, Father, I was a freshman in an awful relationship, no goals, no priorities, no real relationships, and no relationship with Christ. It was rough and lonely that semester. Second semester was about the same. And I really started to question whether I should even be at the university anymore. But on a whim, at 2 a.m., the night before the Koinonia retreat in March, I was so broken and sad and lost and looking for a solution to my problems. So I decided to sign up for Koinonia, and it honestly changed my life. I started to go to Mass again. I started to get involved. I started searching for my own path to heaven. I'm certainly not perfect by any means, but now I have something to strive for and live for, all thanks to the Newman Center. I love what I get to do. I love what I get to do. One more story from that Koinonia retreat. Sister Joan Foley, maybe I have a picture of her too. She's a Marian sister. She just made her final profession this past year. And she got up, she was on the retreat with this weekend, she gave a talk on the life of prayer. And she got up in the beginning and she said, and I had forgotten this. She said, I made my first Koinonia retreat 7 years ago as a freshman when I was at UNL. And she said, I can say this with all honesty. I don't think I'd be a religious sister today if I hadn't gone on that retreat. Because it changed me. And it changed the way I live my life. She's a beautiful sister. She's finishing her degree in nursing at Benedictine this year and will be coming back to be living in the community of the Marians. You're just like, wow, God does, if we make ourselves available, God does amazing things. So, they're just a beautiful grace is from one small weekend retreat like that. I was also reminded this week of the beautiful graces our students who are part of the Newman Institute are experiencing. One of the beautiful things that happened this semester, Dr. John Freed, who's the director of the Institute, took a delegation of about 10 students to Rome for the canonization of John Henry Newman. One of the students writes, "It was amazing for me to be in the Eternal City. There was this great sense that I was home. I loved being able to experience the center of the Catholic faith on earth." After that canonization ceremony, the British Embassy hosted a celebration, right? And so Bishop Conley was invited to go, and he took Dr. Free and these students. They kind of crashed the party. Everybody there was dressed pretty formally and, suit and tie affair and dresses, and Dr. Free goes in with our kids, and they're all dressed in jeans and HuskerCatholic t-shirts. And one of our students, Katie, went right up to Prince Charles, and she curtsied before him, and he looked at her and said, "What is a Husker?" He knows what a Husker is now. These are great experiences that change the lives of our students. In fact, the Institute's going to sponsor another great opportunity for our students in the spring after school gets out with a trip to the Holy Land. I think we're going to be able to take like 20 or 30 students. Father Mills is going to go. I graciously agreed to let him go first. I've not been to the Holy Land, but I'm going to let him go. I'll get a chance to go later. It's all good. But it's just, these are great opportunities in the classes that the students take, and the way it changes the way they think about their own lives as well, by studying these great works of Western civilization in the literature. And these are great opportunities. In fact, one of the things that you might be interested in is that the Institute is offering classes for adults in the evening, and they've been very well attended and very popular. I think we maybe have a list of them out as you leave tonight. Or if you go to the Institute site, Newman Institute for Thought and Culture, you'll see the classes that are going to be offered, and they're great opportunities. Because all of us, right, should be trying to keep growing in our faith, and these are great opportunities for you to be able to do that now in your life. So I want to really encourage you to check that out. I'm almost done. We have a large group in RCIA. Again, I taught last night. There were about 60 kids there. Half of them are probably candidates or catechumens who hopefully come to the church at Easter. We had a beautiful Eucharistic procession a week ago Thursday. It was a cold night, so we didn't have as many alumni and young families come, but we had about the same number of students that came that night. It was a beautiful evening. I think about the grace that every morning I get to begin my day by going over to the chapel, and there are students who are waiting there in the Lady Chapel for me to expose the Blessed Sacrament. And students come all day in and out of that chapel every day to kneel and to pray in front of our Lord in the Blessed Sacrament. What a blessing that is. The sorority, Pi Alpha Chi, continues to do well. I just met with them recently to try to work on goals for their growth in the future. Our Focus Bible studies are all doing well. Focus Greek, I've been working more events back in September. In fact, Calvin came and spoke, and we were on the rooftop of Barry's Bar, and the kids loved it. They were up there, and Calvin gave this great talk about his experience in college. I really want to be Catholic, and I really want to drink. Right? That was basically the title of the talk. And how you had to work through that and figure that out. That's like where college students are, right? I mean, I really want to be Catholic, Father, but I really like to party and I really like to drink. I mean, just be honest. And that's where you were. And you touched their hearts because they could connect with that night. It was wonderful. Theology on Tap nights of Old Chicago. In fact, this Wednesday, our own Lieutenant Governor, Mike Foley, is going to come and speak up on the second floor of Old Chicago to our students at 11 o'clock at night. Thank you for that, making that effort to do that. That's a late night hour for you to do that. I get it. But thank you. This last grace I want to share with you tonight happened just this Wednesday. My schedule opened up and I was over to the Phi Cap house. Because the Phi Caps do these things called senior testimonies, where they give their kind of a testament of their faith journey through college to the younger students. And one of them, not both of them, are here tonight. And so I'm not going to use their names. And I knew part of their stories, but not entirely. Both of these men, who are getting ready to graduate this year, have faced challenging moments in their lives growing up. Both of them watched their families fall apart through divorce. In fact, one of the young men talked about memories of the police coming to their house because things got so bad. He also spoke of verbal and physical abuse he received from his father. The other young man spoke about the hurt caused by his father when he had an affair with somebody other than his mother when he was 3.5 years old and they divorced. He talked about the death of his best childhood friend who accidentally hung himself in the 6th grade because he was trying to achieve a high, and his sister's boyfriend told him how to do this, and it backfired and he died as a 12-year-old. He talked about a loss of a high school friend who, through some crazy circumstances, ended up being shot and killed by a policeman. And then he talked about the death of a friend who he was in a car with on the way home from a ski trip in Colorado when they were sophomores in college. There were 4 of them in the car. And his friend was driving the car way too fast, about 95 miles an hour. He told his friend to slow down, and he didn't, and they hit some black ice, and the car rolled 6 times. And when he came to, he was able to crawl out the windshield because it was busted out. And he said, "I saw my buddy lying in the ditch and I knew he was dead in the back seat." And he goes, I just didn't even feel anything. I was just numb. I was tired of being angry and I just was numb. The beautiful thing, and there's a long story, but both of those young men have experienced tremendous healing, I would say, during their time in college. And a large part of that, some people thought I was crazy to start a fraternity. Like, why would you do that? That's stupid. Well, I will stand up for doing this because of these stories. I will never apologize for starting that because both of these men testified, specifically by brothers in their house, who supported them, who encouraged them, who challenged them, who held them accountable, that both of them would say that has made all the difference. I sat back and shed tears in the back of the room as I listened to them speak. Both of them are closer to Jesus now than they've ever been in their life. Praise God for that. And I think about that, I think how blessed we are because we have this ability, through God's grace and your generosity, to be able to be present to these students. And then I think about all these students all over the country who don't have that at all. And they're facing similar types of things. And they don't have anybody to turn to. We've got so much work to do. So much work to do in our church to change things. It's a huge task. I sat with this board that I'm on in New Jersey, and we talked about this. It's overwhelming, right? To think, like, how can this change? But we also know that Jesus started with 12, right? And look what happened from there. And so we have hope. We have things that we're working on to try to change things coming in the future. It's going to be a long, hard battle. Okay. So it's a long, hard battle. It's a battle worth fighting. We were talking about this tonight. Calvin mentioned this. We have to get better at this. And it's interesting because I was sitting by the congressman, we were talking about this before Calvin talked. What he said is so true. Like, we need to invite other people into our homes. We need to share Christian life with each other. We need to give of ourselves. It won't change if we don't start changing our habits and doing these things and living more intentionally Christian life and making the effort to go out and find ways to be able to do that. Lauren's very, nice talking about my hospitality and all that. I learned that from my parents. You know, I grew up in a little town of 425 people, and my mother had this incredible ability. It wasn't like we had a Hy-Vee up the road, and if somebody just stopped by randomly, my mother could have cocktails and salmon and all this stuff, and like she had been preparing for them for days. I still don't know how she did it, but she had it figured out, and she did it. And she taught that to me. My mother was a person, when my dad would come home and say, so-and-so died, my mother would go straight to the kitchen and start cooking and take food to their house and go up there and visit them. We have to be better about doing these things in our church, in our life, and investing in people. Otherwise, nothing will change. There'll be more and more nuns. Our church will dwindle. Our culture won't change. We have to, so I challenge you to think like you're so generous in helping us do that, but challenge yourselves to think how else you can do that in your own parish, with your own friends. How you can share Christian life in a deeper way with each other and with them. It's life so much better when you do it, I promise you, I know it. And so many of you do it, I know already. But this is what we have to be about. So, I'm so grateful tonight. Thanks be to God. Thank all of you. I mean, when I think about these people who say to me, we don't have any resources, and I look out and I'm like, we're so blessed. We have all of you here tonight who are supporting us in this apostolate. I just feel my heart's full because of all of you sitting here. Thank you so much. Because what you're doing is making a difference in the lives of our students. Thank you.